The first thought that quietly shapes your entire day. There is a moment you are about to miss again today if you are not paying attention. It happens right after you wake up, before you touch your phone, before you speak to anyone, before your day even begins. And in that exact moment, a single thought quietly steps in and starts shaping everything that follows. Most people never notice it. That is why most people keep living the same kind of day over and over again. Think about this carefully. Before anything actually happens, your mind has already started telling a story. Sometimes it is pressure, sometimes it is worry, sometimes it is that subtle feeling that you are already behind, already late, already carrying something heavy before you even get out of bed. And here is the part that changes everything. That first thought is not random. It is not harmless. It is setting the direction of your emotions, your decisions, and your reactions before your day even has a chance to unfold. This is why some days feel heavy from the very beginning, even when nothing has gone wrong yet. It is not the day that creates the weight. It is the way the day was started. Now imagine something different. Imagine if, instead of waking up into pressure, you woke up into awareness. Imagine if the first thing that entered your mind was not worry, not urgency, not expectation, but gratitude. Not forced, not artificial, but real recognition of what has already been given to you before you even begin. Because the truth is simple. You do not start your day when you get out of bed. You start your day with your first thought. And if you miss that moment, you allow something else to take control of it. Right now, you are still inside that moment. Right now, you have a choice that most people ignore without realizing it. You can continue letting your mind follow the same pattern it always has, or you can interrupt it and shift it in a completely different direction. This is not about positive thinking. This is about positioning your heart before anything else tries to position it for you. Because when gratitude becomes your first response, something begins to change immediately. Your mind slows down. Your perspective opens. The weight you thought you had to carry starts to lose its grip. And this is only the beginning. Because if your first thought can shape your entire day, then understanding why most people wake up already feeling behind will change the way you see every morning from this point forward. Why most people wake up already feeling behind. There is a feeling that shows up before your feet even touch the ground. It is subtle, but it is heavy. A quiet sense that you are already late, already pressured, already trying to catch up with something that has not even started yet. And the strange part is this. Nothing has happened. No problem has appeared. No demand has been made. No situation has unfolded. Yet your mind is already moving as if the day is against you. This is where most people begin every morning without realizing it. It is not the outside world creating this pressure. It is the internal expectation that was carried over from yesterday. Unfinished thoughts, unresolved concerns, responsibilities waiting to be handled. All of it quietly re-enters your mind the moment you wake up, and your first instinct is to respond. You start thinking ahead. You start organizing problems. You start anticipating outcomes. And within seconds, your mind is no longer present. It is already in the future, trying to manage everything at once. That is what creates the feeling of being behind. Not because you are actually late, but because your mind has moved faster than your reality. And when that happens, peace has no space to exist. You begin your day reacting instead of receiving. You wake up and immediately step into pressure instead of awareness. And over time, this becomes so normal that you stop questioning it. But look at what this does to you. It drains your energy before you even begin. It fills your mind before you have chosen what belongs there. It sets a tone that follows you into every conversation, every decision, every moment. And the most dangerous part is that it feels automatic. But it is not unchangeable. Right now, you can see it for what it is. A pattern. A habit of thought that has been repeated so many times that it feels natural. But anything that is learned can be interrupted. You are not actually behind. You have just been starting your day from the wrong place. Because when your first awareness is pressure, everything that follows feels rushed. But when your first awareness shifts, everything else begins to align differently. This is where something powerful begins to open. Because if waking up does not automatically mean you have begun your day the right way, then there is a deeper question you need to understand next. What does it actually mean to truly begin your day? The subtle shift between waking up and truly beginning the day. Waking up is automatic. Your body opens its eyes, your mind starts moving, and the day appears to begin. But that is only the surface. Most people think their day has started the moment they become conscious, yet something deeper has not been activated. There is a difference between being awake and being aligned. You can be fully awake and still carry confusion, fully alert and still feel scattered, fully present physically and completely disconnected internally. That is because waking up is physical, but beginning your day is intentional. And this is the shift almost no one talks about. The moment you wake up is not the true beginning of your day. The true beginning happens when you decide what will guide your mind, your emotions, and your focus. Without that decision, your day does not start with direction. It starts with reaction. You begin responding to thoughts you did not choose, feelings you did not question, and pressures that quietly entered your mind. And from that point forward, everything feels like it is pulling you instead of you moving with clarity. But there is another way to step into your day. A deliberate moment where you pause before everything else takes over. A moment where you do not allow your thoughts to run ahead, but instead bring them into alignment. A moment where you decide that your mind will not be led by pressure, but anchored in something greater. This is what it means to truly begin your day. It is not about doing more. It is about choosing differently. Right now, consider this. If you do not take control of the beginning, something else will. Your habits will. Your worries will. Your expectations will. And once they take that position, they begin shaping everything that follows. But when you pause and become intentional, something changes immediately. Your mind slows down. Your focus sharpens. Your emotions begin to settle. You are no longer being pulled into your day. You are stepping into it with awareness. And this is where gratitude begins to take its place. Not as a routine, not as something you say without thinking, but as the very thing that positions your heart before anything else has the chance to. Because gratitude is not just a reaction to what you see. It is a decision that defines how you will see everything. And understanding that will completely change how you approach every morning from now on. Gratitude is not politeness. It is positioning. Most people think gratitude is something you say, a polite response, a habit of good manners, a quick acknowledgement before moving on to everything you still want, everything you still need, everything that feels incomplete. But that understanding is shallow. Gratitude is not about words. It is about position. It is the place you choose to stand before your day begins. It is the lens you decide to look through before anything tries to define your perspective for you. And if you misunderstand it, you reduce something powerful into something routine. This is why many people say thank you and still feel empty. They speak the words, but nothing shifts inside. Because gratitude, in its real form, is not something you say casually. It is something you enter intentionally. When you position yourself in gratitude, you are not ignoring what is missing. You are not pretending everything is perfect. You are choosing to recognize what is already present before your mind starts chasing what is not. And that changes everything. Because the moment you begin from lack, your entire day becomes a pursuit. You move from task to task, trying to fill something that always feels just out of reach. But when you begin from gratitude, your day becomes an expression. You are no longer trying to complete yourself. You are moving from a place that is already grounded. This is why gratitude has power. It shifts your internal starting point. It interrupts the automatic focus on pressure, expectation, and comparison. It replaces it with awareness, presence, and recognition. And once that shift happens, your mind begins to operate differently. You notice more. You react less. You carry less unnecessary weight. And the most important part is this. Gratitude positions your heart in a way that opens space for something greater to lead you. It removes the noise that usually fills your mind and creates room for clarity, for direction, for peace. This is not about discipline. It is about alignment. Right now, you have been given another day. Not because everything is perfect, not because every problem has been solved, but because there is still purpose in your life, still time in your hands, still breath in your body, and how you position yourself in this moment will define how you walk through everything that follows. Because when gratitude becomes your position, your experience of life begins to change from the inside out. And what happens inside you when you truly start from that place is something most people have never fully experienced. What happens inside you when you start with gratitude? Something begins to change the moment gratitude becomes your starting point. Not on the outside, not in your schedule, not in your responsibilities, but inside you. And that internal shift is what quietly transforms everything else. At first, it is subtle. Your mind, which was moving fast just moments ago, begins to slow down. The constant stream of thoughts loses intensity. The urgency that felt so real starts to fade. You are still aware of what needs to be done, but it no longer feels like it is pressing against you. That is the first sign. Then your emotions begin to follow. The tension you woke up with starts to loosen. The weight you were carrying does not disappear instantly, but it no longer feels overwhelming. There is space now. Space to think. Space to breathe. Space to respond instead of react. This is not something you force. It is something that happens when your focus shifts. Because gratitude redirects your attention. Instead of scanning for what is wrong, your mind begins to recognize what is already right. Instead of anticipating problems, you begin to notice provision. Instead of feeling like you are starting from behind, you begin to realize you are starting from something that has already been given. And this changes your perception. The same day that once felt heavy now feels manageable. The same responsibilities no longer feel like pressure, but like something you can approach with clarity. Nothing external has changed, but your internal experience is completely different. This is the power of where you begin. When you start with gratitude, you are not denying reality. You are choosing the lens through which you will experience it. And that lens determines how you interpret everything that happens next. Your reactions become calmer. Your thoughts become clearer. Your decisions become more grounded. And without realizing it, you begin to carry a quiet confidence that was not there before. Not because you have control over everything, but because you are no longer being controlled by everything. And there is something even deeper happening. Gratitude does not just calm your mind. It opens your awareness. You begin to notice things that were always there but never recognized. Moments, details, small evidences of care and provision that you used to overlook because your mind was too focused on what was missing. And this leads you into something powerful. Because if you start seeing what you have been overlooking every single morning, you will begin to understand that your life has been holding more than you ever realized. Recognizing what you usually overlook every morning. There are things in your life that are so constant, so familiar, that you have stopped seeing them. Not because they are small, but because they are always there. And what is always present often becomes invisible. Every morning you wake up surrounded by evidence that you are being sustained. But your mind moves so quickly toward what is missing that it ignores what is already given. You open your eyes, but you do not pause to recognize that you have been given another day. You take a breath, but you do not notice that life is still moving within you. You stand up, but you do not consider that strength is still available in your body. These are not ordinary details. They are foundations. But when gratitude is absent, even the most essential things lose their meaning. Your attention shifts immediately to what is not working, what needs to be fixed, what feels uncertain. And in doing so, you overlook the very things that could anchor you before your day even begins. This is where awareness changes everything, because the moment you begin to recognize what has been overlooked, your perspective starts to expand. You are no longer looking at your life through what is lacking. You are seeing it through what is present. And there is more than you realize. There are moments you have been given that you have not acknowledged. There are opportunities in front of you that you have not fully seen. There are forms of provision, protection, and quiet support that have been sustaining you without demanding your attention. But they are there. And when you begin to notice them, something shifts inside you again. You move from assumption to awareness, from routine to recognition, from indifference to gratitude. This is not about forcing yourself to feel thankful. It is about opening your eyes to what has always been there. Because when you truly recognize what you have been overlooking, gratitude stops being something you try to create. It becomes something that naturally rises within you. And this changes how you approach everything that follows. You are no longer starting your day empty, waiting to receive something before you feel complete. You are starting your day aware that you have already been given more than you noticed. And this leads you into a deeper shift. Because once you begin to recognize what is already present, the way you approach God begins to change as well. You stop starting with requests, and you begin from acknowledgement. Before asking for anything, acknowledge what is already given. Most people approach prayer with a list. Requests, needs, concerns, things they are hoping will change. And without realizing it, they enter that moment already focused on what is missing, already centered on what has not yet happened. But there is a deeper way to begin. Before you ask for anything, there is something that needs to be recognized. Because when your first words are requests, your heart remains in a position of lack. But when your first response is acknowledgement, everything inside you begins from a different place. Right now, think about this. Before this day even started, things were already set in motion for you. You were given breath. You were given another opportunity to live, to move, to experience. You were sustained through the night without effort, without control, without you having to manage it. That did not come from you. And yet most people move past it without a second thought. They begin their day asking for more without recognizing what has already been placed in their hands. This is where gratitude changes the entire posture of your prayer. You are no longer approaching God from a place of urgency and need alone. You are approaching from awareness, from recognition, from a heart that sees before it asks. And that changes how you speak. Instead of immediately asking for strength, you begin by acknowledging that you are still standing. Instead of asking for provision, you recognize what has already been provided. Instead of asking for direction, you acknowledge that you have already been guided to this moment. This is not about ignoring your needs. It is about placing them in the right order. Because when acknowledgement comes first, your requests are no longer driven by anxiety. They are grounded in trust. And something powerful happens in that shift. Your mind calms. Your words become more intentional. Your connection becomes deeper. You are no longer speaking from pressure. You are speaking from relationship. And this is where prayer becomes real. Not a routine, not a repetition, but an honest moment of alignment. You begin to feel the difference immediately. There is less urgency, less tension, more clarity, more presence. Because when you start by acknowledging what is already given, you remind yourself that you are not beginning from nothing. You are beginning from provision. And that realization prepares you for something even deeper. Because once you stop starting your day from what is missing, you begin to see how often your mind has been trained to focus on lack without you even noticing. Breaking the habit of starting the day in lack. There is a pattern that has been shaping your mornings without you noticing. It is not loud, it is not obvious, but it is consistent. The moment your mind becomes active, it begins scanning for what is missing, what still needs to be done, what has not been resolved, what could go wrong, what you do not have yet. And within seconds, your day begins from a place of lack. This does not happen because your life is empty. It happens because your attention has been trained to focus on absence instead of presence. Over time, this becomes automatic. You wake up, and without choosing it, your mind starts building a narrative around what is incomplete. That is what creates pressure. Because when your starting point is lack, everything feels urgent. Everything feels like it needs to be fixed immediately. Your thoughts begin to accelerate, your emotions begin to tighten, and before you even begin your day, you are already trying to catch up with something that has not even unfolded. But this is a habit, not a truth. And anything that is a habit can be interrupted. Right now, you have the awareness to see it. That initial movement of your mind toward what is missing, that subtle pull toward worry, toward comparison, toward expectation, It may feel natural, but it is not necessary. You can choose differently. Instead of allowing your mind to search for lack, you can direct it toward what is already present. Not as a forced exercise, but as a deliberate shift in focus. Because what you focus on expands. When you focus on what is missing, the sense of lack grows. When you focus on what is present, awareness grows. And awareness changes how you experience everything. This is where gratitude becomes more than a moment. It becomes a pattern that replaces another pattern. You begin to wake up and notice what is already there before your mind has the chance to move toward what is not. You begin to interrupt the automatic thoughts that once defined your mornings. You begin to take back control of where your attention goes. And slowly, something begins to change. The urgency decreases. The pressure loosens. The constant sense of needing more begins to fade. Not because everything is perfect, but because your starting point is no longer lack. You are no longer beginning your day from what is missing. You are beginning from what is present. And that shift rewires something deeper. Because once your mind stops defaulting to lack, it starts seeing your life differently. Not as something incomplete, but as something already filled with more than you were noticing. And that is where gratitude begins to transform not just how you feel, but how you see everything around you. Letting gratitude rewire the way you see your life. The way you see your life is not only determined by what happens to you, it is determined by how you interpret what happens. Two people can face the same situation and walk away with completely different experiences, not because reality changed, but because perception did. And perception is not fixed. It is shaped, repeatedly, quietly, every single day. What you focus on becomes the lens through which you see everything else. If your mind has been trained to notice problems first, then even good moments will feel incomplete. If your attention is anchored in what is missing, then what is present will never feel like enough. This is how perception is formed, not in one moment, but in patterns. And this is where gratitude begins to do something deeper than most people realize. It starts to rewire how you see. At first it feels intentional. You choose to recognize something good. You pause to acknowledge what is already there. But as you continue, something begins to shift beneath the surface. Your mind starts to change its default. Instead of automatically scanning for what is wrong, it begins to notice what is right. Instead of amplifying what is lacking, it starts to recognize what is already present. And over time, this changes the way you interpret your entire life. Situations that once felt overwhelming begin to feel manageable. Moments that once felt empty begin to reveal meaning. Details that once went unnoticed begin to stand out with clarity. Nothing external needed to change for this to happen. The shift occurred in the way you see. And that is powerful, because when your perception changes, your experience follows. You begin to realize that your life was not as empty as it felt. It was just being filtered through a mindset that was trained to overlook what mattered. And now as that filter changes, everything begins to look different. You are not creating a new life. You are seeing your life clearly for the first time. And that clarity brings something with it. Peace. Not because every situation is resolved, but because your mind is no longer distorting what is in front of you. You are no longer magnifying what is wrong while minimizing what is right. You are seeing with balance. And that balance allows you to stand in the middle of your reality without being overwhelmed by it. This is what gratitude does over time. It reshapes your perception until your natural response begins to align with truth instead of fear, awareness instead of assumption. And as this becomes part of you, something even stronger begins to emerge. Because gratitude is no longer dependent on perfect conditions. It begins to exist even when life is not exactly how you want it to be. Speaking appreciation, even when life is not perfect. There is a moment where gratitude becomes real, not when everything is going well, not when life feels easy, not when every situation is exactly how you want it to be. Gratitude becomes real when you choose it in the middle of imperfection. Because anyone can be thankful when everything is aligned, when there are no problems pressing against you, when your expectations are being met, when nothing feels uncertain. But that kind of gratitude is conditional. It depends on circumstances, and the moment those circumstances change, it disappears. What transforms you is a different kind of gratitude. The kind that stands even when things are not resolved. The kind that speaks even when answers have not arrived. The kind that recognizes what is still present, even when something feels missing. Right now, there may be areas in your life that are not where you want them to be. Situations that are still uncertain. Questions that have not been answered. And your natural response is to focus on those things, to give them all your attention, to let them define how you feel. But what happens if you do something different? What happens if, in the middle of that imperfection, you still choose to acknowledge what remains steady? This is where strength begins to form, because you are no longer allowing your gratitude to be controlled by your circumstances. You are choosing it as a position, not as a reaction. You recognize that even if something is unresolved, not everything is broken. Even if something is uncertain, not everything is unstable. Even if something is missing, not everything is absent. And that awareness protects your mind. It prevents one area of your life from defining your entire perspective. It keeps you grounded when your emotions try to pull you in different directions. It reminds you that your current situation is not the full picture. This is not denial. It is clarity. You are not ignoring what needs attention. You are refusing to let it dominate everything else. And when you begin to speak appreciation from that place, something powerful happens. Your heart becomes steady. Your thoughts become balanced. Your emotions begin to settle. You are no longer being pushed back and forth by what changes around you. You are anchored. And from that position, you are able to move forward with a different kind of confidence. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer dependent on perfection to remain grounded. This is where gratitude matures. It moves from something you feel occasionally to something that defines how you stand in every situation. And that opens the door to something even deeper. Because when gratitude is no longer dependent on circumstances, it becomes the way you invite God into every part of your day. Inviting God into the day through thanksgiving. There is a difference between remembering God and inviting Him. Many people think about God during the day. Fewer actually position their hearts in a way that welcomes His presence into what they are about to face. And this is where gratitude becomes more than reflection. It becomes an invitation. Because when you begin with thanksgiving, you are not just looking back at what has been done. You are opening your day with recognition, with humility, with awareness that you are not the source of everything you depend on. That changes how you approach God. You are no longer coming with urgency alone. You are not entering that moment only to ask, only to present needs, only to seek solutions. You are entering with acknowledgement, and acknowledgement creates connection. Right now, consider this. When your first words are rooted in gratitude, your heart becomes receptive. The noise that usually fills your mind begins to quiet. The pressure to control everything starts to loosen. And in that space, something deeper becomes possible. You begin to sense guidance, not as something loud or forced, but as clarity that rises within you. You begin to feel steadiness. Not because everything is certain, but because you are no longer carrying everything alone. This is what happens when gratitude opens the door. God is no longer a distant idea in your day. He becomes present in it, in your thoughts, in your decisions, in the way you respond to what comes your way. And this is not about doing something complicated. It is about beginning differently. It is about choosing to acknowledge before you ask, to recognize before you request, to position your heart before you try to control outcomes. Because when you do that, you shift from striving to trusting. You stop trying to manage everything in your own strength and begin allowing yourself to be led. And that leadership does not remove challenges, but it changes how you walk through them. You are not reacting alone. You are not deciding alone. You are not carrying everything alone. There is a presence guiding you, steadying you, bringing clarity where there was confusion, bringing calm where there was pressure. And the more you begin your day this way, the more natural it becomes. Gratitude becomes the doorway. Connection becomes the foundation. And your entire day begins from a place of alignment instead of effort. And from that place, something else begins to settle deeply within you. Because when you recognize that you are not moving through this day alone, a different kind of peace begins to rise. The peace that comes from recognizing you are sustained. There is a kind of peace that does not come from having everything under control. It does not come from knowing every outcome or having every answer. It comes from something deeper, something that most people overlook because they are too focused on managing everything themselves. It comes from recognizing that you are being sustained. Not just occasionally, not just in visible ways, but constantly, even in moments when you are not paying attention, even when you feel uncertain, even when things are not fully resolved. Right now, think about how much of your life continues without your control. Your breath continues, your heart keeps beating, your body carries you, time keeps moving forward. There are countless things happening in your life that you are not actively managing, yet they continue. They are being sustained. And when this awareness becomes real to you, something shifts inside. You begin to understand that your life is not resting entirely on your shoulders. The pressure to control everything starts to break. The need to predict every outcome begins to fade. The constant tension of trying to hold everything together starts to loosen, because you realize that you have never been the one holding everything together in the first place. And that realization brings peace. Not a temporary calm that depends on circumstances, but a steady peace that remains even when things are uncertain. Because your sense of security is no longer tied to what you can control. It is anchored in what is sustaining you beyond your control. This is where your mind begins to rest. You are no longer constantly searching for stability, because you recognize that stability has been present all along. You are just not aware of it. And as that awareness deepens, your thoughts begin to slow down. Your reactions become less intense. Your need to figure everything out immediately begins to disappear. You are still responsible. You are still present. But you are no longer overwhelmed, because you are no longer carrying the weight alone. This peace does not remove your responsibilities. It changes how you carry them. It allows you to move forward without the constant pressure of needing to control every detail. It allows you to face uncertainty without being consumed by it. It allows you to trust, even when you do not fully understand. And that trust begins to strengthen something within you. Because when you live with the awareness that you are sustained, your strength no longer depends only on your own capacity. It begins to grow from something deeper, something consistent, something that does not run out. And as that strength develops, it starts to shape you in ways you may not immediately notice, but over time, it becomes part of who you are. How gratitude strengthens you, without you noticing. Strength does not always arrive in obvious ways. It is not always loud, not always immediate, not always something you can point to in a single moment. Most of the time, real strength is built quietly, through what you repeat, through what you choose, through how you position yourself day after day. And this is exactly what gratitude begins to do within you. At first, it feels like a simple shift. You pause, you acknowledge, you become aware. But as you continue, something deeper starts to take place beneath the surface. Your mind begins to stabilize. The thoughts that once pulled you in every direction begin to lose their control. You are no longer reacting to every feeling, every concern, every possibility that crosses your mind. There is space now, and in that space, you begin to respond with intention. That is strength. Your emotions begin to regulate. Situations that once overwhelmed you do not carry the same weight. You still feel, you still care, but you are not easily shaken. You are not constantly moving from tension to relief, from pressure to exhaustion. There is a steadiness forming within you. That is strength. Your perspective begins to anchor. Instead of being influenced by every change around you, you start to hold your position. You are no longer dependent on circumstances to feel grounded. Whether things go as expected or not, you remain centered. That is strength. And all of this happens without you forcing it. It grows as a result of what you practice. Every time you choose gratitude, you are reinforcing a different way of thinking. You are training your mind to focus, your emotions to settle, your perspective to remain balanced. And over time, what once required effort becomes natural. You do not have to remind yourself constantly. You begin to live from that place automatically. This is why many people never experience this kind of strength. They are looking for something immediate, something external, something that changes their situation instantly. But real strength is developed internally, through consistency, through repetition, through small decisions that shape you over time. And gratitude is one of those decisions. It does not just change how you feel in the moment. It builds something within you that remains, something stable, something reliable, something that supports you even when you are not consciously thinking about it. And as this strength becomes part of you, it begins to influence how you step into your day, because you are no longer entering your day as someone who is easily shaken. You are entering as someone who is grounded, aware, and steady. And that changes how you walk into everything that comes next. Walking into your day with a different perspective. The way you walk into your day determines how you experience everything in it. Not because the day changes, but because you do. The same situations, the same responsibilities, the same people can feel completely different depending on the perspective you carry with you. And now something has shifted. You are no longer entering your day from pressure. You are not stepping into it already overwhelmed, already trying to catch up, already reacting to thoughts that took control before you had the chance to choose them. You are entering differently. There is awareness where there used to be urgency. There is clarity where there used to be confusion. There is steadiness where there used to be tension. And this changes how you move through everything. When a situation arises, you do not immediately react. You pause. You observe. You respond with intention instead of impulse. What once triggered stress now feels manageable, not because it became easier, but because you are no longer approaching it from a place of pressure. Your conversations begin to change. You are more present. You are not distracted by everything else you think you need to do. You listen more clearly. You respond more calmly. And this creates a different kind of connection with the people around you. Your decisions begin to change. You are not rushing to resolve everything at once. You are able to think clearly, to choose wisely, to move forward without the weight of urgency controlling you. There is space between the moment something happens and the way you respond to it. And that space is where your power is. Because in that space, you are no longer being led by automatic patterns. You are choosing your direction. This is what it looks like to carry a different perspective. Nothing external needed to shift for this to happen. The change began within you, and now it is influencing everything around you. You are not moving through your day the same way anymore. You are grounded. You are aware. You are aligned. And as you continue walking this way, something else begins to take shape. Because this is not just about one day. This is about what happens when you begin to repeat this pattern consistently. When this way of starting becomes something you return to every single morning. That is where real transformation begins to unfold. The daily habit that quietly transforms your life. What you experience today does not need to stay as a single moment. It can become a pattern. And patterns are what shape your life, not isolated experiences. Right now, you have seen what happens when you begin your day with awareness, with gratitude, with intention. You have felt the difference it creates inside you. But the real transformation does not come from doing this once. It comes from returning to it again and again until it becomes part of who you are. This is how habits are formed, not through intensity, but through consistency. You do not need long periods of time. You do not need perfect conditions. You only need a decision that you repeat daily. A few intentional moments each morning where you pause before everything else begins, where you align your mind before it starts running on its own, where you choose gratitude before anything else defines your perspective. And every time you do that, you reinforce something. You strengthen your awareness. You deepen your sense of peace. You stabilize your thoughts. You build resilience without even noticing it. At first, it may feel intentional. You remind yourself to pause. You choose to redirect your thoughts. You make the effort to begin differently. but as the days pass, something shifts. It becomes natural. You wake up and your mind does not immediately rush into pressure. You begin to notice your thoughts earlier. You interrupt patterns more quickly. You return to gratitude without needing to force it. This is where change becomes lasting, because it is no longer something you try to do. It is something you naturally do, and over time the impact becomes visible. Your days begin to feel lighter. Your reactions become calmer. Your decisions become clearer. The same life you had before begins to feel different, not because everything changed, but because you did. This is the power of a daily habit. It works quietly. It does not demand attention. It does not create instant results that fade away. It builds something steady, something reliable, something that supports you in every area of your life. And the most important part is this: you are not just changing your mornings. You are changing the way you experience your life. And as this becomes part of you, there is one final truth that brings everything together. Something simple but powerful enough to define how you move forward from this point on. When gratitude leads, everything else follows. There is a simple truth that changes everything once you begin to live it, not as an idea, not as something you agree with, but as something you practice every day. When gratitude leads, everything else begins to follow. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, not because every situation aligns the way you expect, but because your starting point changes, and your starting point determines the direction of everything that comes after. Think about how your days used to begin. Your mind would move first. Your concerns would rise first. Your expectations would take control before you even had the chance to choose anything different. And from that moment, everything else would follow that pattern. But now, something has shifted. You are no longer allowing your thoughts to lead without direction. You are no longer beginning from pressure, from lack, from uncertainty. You are choosing to begin from gratitude, and that decision changes the flow of your entire day. Because when gratitude leads, your mind does not rush into worry. It settles into awareness. Your emotions do not escalate into tension. They stabilize into calm. Your perspective does not narrow around what is missing. It expands toward what is present. And from that place, everything begins to align differently. You start to notice more than you used to. You react less than you used to. You carry less weight than you used to. Not because your life has no challenges, but because your foundation is no longer built on what is unstable. It is grounded in something consistent. Gratitude becomes the filter through which you experience everything. It shapes how you see, how you think, how you respond. And because of that, it influences every part of your day without you needing to force it. This is where everything comes together. You are no longer trying to control your day from the outside. You are leading it from within. You are not waiting for peace to appear. You are starting from it. You are not depending on perfect conditions. You are creating a steady foundation regardless of what comes. And this is what changes your life over time. Not one moment, not one decision, but a pattern that continues. A way of beginning that becomes a way of living. Because when gratitude leads, everything else follows. And as you step into your day from this place, you are no longer moving with uncertainty guiding you. You are moving with awareness, with clarity, with a quiet confidence that remains. This is where your transformation continues, every single morning, one decision at a time.